So it looks as if Keke Palmer has scrapped her Jonathan Luther King Majors Jr. III interview that was supposed to be released today. But just because she scrapped her interview don't mean I gotta scrap my thoughts. Let's get into it on today's Woo Child.
VBS, I just turned the water on. Big ol' flex, shit you never saw before. These niggas chasing me like waterfalls. Keeping on my lip, truck look like bricks.
Woocation, the Ghana edition is here. I'm so excited, y'all. We are going to Dirty December in Ghana. Y'all know I have been talking your ears off about going to Ghana, and I am so excited to finally bring it to you. And we're going to do all the fun things that you saw me do when I went to Ghana 2 years ago, back to back, y'all. Please go to woocationinghana.sortedchalet.com to book your spot. You do not want to miss this because baby, once it sells out, it sells out. I cannot help you. I cannot. All right. So I will see y'all in Ghana. Again, go to woocationinghana.sortedchalet.com, and I cannot wait to see you for Dirty December. Woo child. So like many of you, when I saw that Pop Crave announced that Keke Palmer was going to be airing an interview that she taped with Jonathan Majors, I thought it was an April Fool's joke because it was the first day of Black Women's, I'm Not Your Fool, Black Women's Month. It was on April Fool's. So I thought it was an April Fool's joke. But then when I went and I read the release and basically the synopsis of the interview that was released on Wondery, I said to myself, oh my God, like, you cannot be for real. You cannot be for real.
Emotional vulnerability or unshakable mystery?
Vulnerability.
Okay. Fall in love slow or fall in love loud?
Fall in love slow.
I love that. Owning the past or rewriting the future?
Owning the past.
Why?
We're talking about history in general or mine? Me personally.
I mean, really, any of it. Just your concept around, maybe more so
around time.
Around time.
Time is.
Oh my gosh, I've been so into
everything.
time lately. Oh, yo, gosh, man.
Yeah.
Literally, this time thing.
Look it.
I love that we literally.
Wicked. Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
Very wicked.
Very wicked.
Okay.
Come on, girl.
Defy gravity.
Come on, girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Co-star in a rom-com with Megan Good or a buddy cop movie
with Megan Good.
or a buddy cop movie with Michael B. Jordan.
Oh no, Mike. Oh no. I mean, that would be hilarious.
Oh my gosh, even that voice. I want that to be the voice of the character. That would be hilarious.
Michael.
This was about to be
Hey, bro, what's
the
up?
most
Michael?
mammiest
Michael?
interview.
Yeah. I gotta do my baby.
Period.
I gotta keep it in the family.
You heard that, man?
Yeah,
Period. And I'm ready for the rom-com.
Oh, baby, she knew she had to scrap this bullshit because this was about to be the most mammiest of mammiest interview. This was about to surpass Big Shirley doing her mammy cry when Jonathan Luther King Majors went on the Big Shirley show 2-3 weeks ago, and she was trying to have him cry in between her damn bosoms. This was about to be the mammiest of the mammiest moments we were ever going to see from Keke Palmer. I struggle with understanding why everyone is wanting to interview Jonathan Majors instead of wanting to interview his victim. Isn't that how that usually works? Doesn't the victim get a platform to talk about her experience? Why is everyone continuously wanting to speak to this man? Mind you, this man was not speaking to y'all before this entire DV ordeal. And speaking about speaking to him, like, I told myself I was not going to talk about this man no more. But Keke Palmer had to do this stupid ass shit, and I could not help but to speak on it. But yeah, this man was never speaking to Black platforms ever. I think Ebony was the only magazine who got to get a spread of him. And they did it because they had to ask him for that. It wasn't something that his team went to them and asked for. They asked for that because they wanted him to be more in touch with the Black community. You know, he was supposed to be our next Denzel. Y'all think every good Black actor, if he's male, is the next Denzel, okay? It was the same thing with Nate Parker. He the next Denzel, you know what I mean? And while Denzel did put his stamp on Nate Parker also had something similar happen to him, but we're going to get to Nate Parker later on. I want to stay right now and talk about the victim, right? When I saw that Keke Palmer was releasing an interview with Jonathan Majors, I said to myself, wow, I was there when the videos of Keke Palmer being dish-ragged by her baby mama were released to the public. I saw those horrifying images. And so for me, I'm thinking, if there's anybody that you want to interview in this situation, it would have to be the victim, because that is who you would have commonality with. It would be the victim. Just like you have these images of your abuse on the internet, so does Grace, right? And so for me, I just didn't understand why she wouldn't interview the person she has commonality with until I remembered something. But I remember that in the midst of the avalanche that was the Keke Palmer and Darius Jackson saga, there were moments where he also made his voice known, made his point known legally, but you know, we didn't care. We didn't care. Keke Palmer's our girl. It's your girl. We don't care. We see a man putting his hands on a woman, so we do not care what you have to say. Anything that he said was going to fall on deaf ears, right? But I want to bring back what Darius said, and he said this legally through his legal counsel.
Darius Jackson is addressing Keke Palmer's restraining order filing after the actress was granted a temporary domestic violence restraining order against her ex in November. Jackson, who is dad to their 9-month-old son Leo, has submitted a legal response. In court documents obtained by E! News on December 18th, Jackson accuses Palmer of being, quote, repeatedly engaged in abusive conduct, alleging she was, quote, the primary aggressor in their 2.5-year relationship. Jackson alleges Palmer punched, hit, and choked him during several instances, and that she, quote, called him over 200 times and sent him over 50 emails in November 2021 when he, quote, told her he would not spend the night with her. Additionally, in his response, Jackson, who says the pair officially broke up in October, states that he changed his number in March 2022, quote, to avoid further harassment and threats. E! News has reached out to Palmer's reps for comment and has not heard back. Jackson's response comes after Palmer accused her former partner of physically and emotionally abusing her in documents filed in a Los Angeles court in November. In her request for a restraining order obtained by NBC News, the 30-year-old said she feared for her and her son's well-being, alleging that since their split, Jackson became, quote, even more unhinged, volatile, and dangerous to her and their child. Palmer, who also filed for sole custody of Leo, stated in the docs, so much of Darius's abuse towards me throughout our relationship was based on his insecurity and jealousy, that I became extremely concerned when Darius started to express jealousy about the time I was spending with our son. In her filing, Palmer detailed alleged incidents of physical abuse. She also accused Jackson of emotional abuse, stating that it happened throughout their romance, which began in 2021. She continued, Darius would love bomb me and make me feel like I was the most important woman in the world, only to get extremely distant and cold over a perceived insult to him. Darius had a way of gaslighting me to make me feel like I was doing something wrong, even though I wasn't. Shortly after the allegations became public, Jackson posted a since-deleted photo of himself and his son to X, formerly known as Twitter, writing, I love you, son. See you soon.
I think I speak for a lot of people when I say what I'm about to say. We didn't care. We didn't care to hear what he was saying. We didn't want to hear that she was the aggressor in their relationship. We did not we weren't trying to hear that shit. But recently someone put this up on my timeline and I said, oh my gosh, this is so true. In her book, I Don't Belong to You, she detailed how in a previous relationship, she was in fact the aggressor when it came to DV. I'm going to read a little bit of an excerpt from her book where she talks about how she was a violent aggressor in a past relationship. She says this: as my resentment grew, my darkness started showing up. Old bad habits, defense mechanisms, hashtag hurt people. Sometimes I went off on him just to get a rise out of him. I couldn't express my pain, and the fact that he couldn't see I was hurting caused me, I think, to subconsciously show him through making him feel that same hurt. And just like that, our relationship became physically and emotionally abusive, and mostly on my part. Sometimes we think only guys can be abusive. And it's not true. Things can get out of hand for anyone when you have feelings you ain't dealt with. There was one time in the middle of the night when we got into a crazy fight, I should say morning, because it was 3 a.m. and I wanted him to leave. He wouldn't, and he wouldn't let me leave. I was texting my best friend Jamie the whole time, and like in a movie, she hopped out of bed without question and came to pick me up. He left when he realized I'd call her to come. But when she dropped me off the next morning, he somehow was right on the couch. He never hit me, but we fought for the first 2 years of living together. I started to feel so ashamed, as if I was turning into a monster that I promised myself I would never become. This wasn't me. Who was this? How did I end up on this end of it? How? I thought to myself. She was in a relationship with this man who she was living with. I don't understand whether it was her place or his place. But from what she's saying, they were living together. And so she wanted him to leave. He wouldn't leave. She left. And by the time she came back, he was back because he lived there, right? Remember, she says, he did not hit me, but we fought, right? And I bring up these two examples because I think it showcases the commonality between her and Jonathan Majors. I guess the okaying of it because it comes from her, right? While she is saying that DV is not something that's only a male-centered thing, she is presenting it as, but who is this? I don't know who this was. This wasn't me, right? And it actually is you. And if you actually go back and you listen to Darius, it was still you. This is who you are. And when you look at Jonathan Majors, it is the same thing. Jonathan Majors, what happened to Jonathan Majors that night is not an isolated event. He was hitting Gracie for years. And before he put his hands on her, he was putting his hands on other women. Okay? If you followed the trial, I've said this before, I'll say it again. There were numerous text messages that showcased that this man was not only putting his hands on Grace, but he was also coercing her into not going to the hospital, into not getting medical help. So much so that I know a lot of you like to focus on the fact that we saw the video of him coming out of that car and a white woman was chasing him down the street, and you all like to focus on that part of the video. So many of you do not like to focus on what happens at the beginning of that video when you see him forcefully force her back into the car. Sometimes it's not just what we see. Sometimes it's what we didn't see. It's the same thing with Darius and Keke Palmer, right? We saw the videos of him lunging her around like she was a frisbee. But if you listen to what Darius said, and if you go back and you read her book, it is the things we don't see sometimes. Sometimes it's the things that are not captured on video that are very, very important for the understanding of the dynamic and what's happening in a DV situation. Now, great for Keke Palmer because she's a big name, Darius isn't. And so she was able to spin this in her favor, whether it be in court or the court of public opinion. But if you really sit down and you think about it, things are not always what they seem, which is why you have a Keke Palmer sitting down with a Jonathan Majors talking about accountability, which is something that we have yet to see her take when it comes to Darius. Some of y'all will try to argue me down with that. But Darius said what he said. And now when I go back and I read those excerpts, I believe him. Now, do I believe that he's innocent? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But when he says that she was an aggressor, and when you have her in her own words talking about being an aggressor, I believe him. And so that is the commonality between her and Jonathan Majors. Now, let's talk about what the sit down was supposed to be about. It was supposed to be about accountability. Here is what some of the synopsis it was for the episode that we might not ever see. She says, accountability, it's a loaded word, right? We're living in a time where we want real accountability, especially for things men have gotten away with for far too long. At the same time, finding forgiveness feels harder than ever, and we're still figuring out what true accountability even looks like. Today, we're sitting down with Jonathan Majors to talk about what life looked like after being convicted of harassment and assault. It is insane. It is insane to talk about accountability with a man who pleaded not guilty. He pleaded not guilty in his trial. So is accountability in the room with us? Is accountability in the room with us? Let's talk about all the ways that Jonathan Majors has shown us accountability. This interview right here is a couple months after, I believe it's 1 month or 2 months after his trial where he was convicted. He goes down to ABC. This is the same interview where he talks about Megan Good being his Coretta.
Yeah.
We've seen her right by your side going in and out of court throughout the whole trial.
Yeah.
How would you describe your relationship?
It's a miracle. She's an angel. She's held me down like a Coretta, you know?
Woo, Bernice King don't feel like whooping this man's ass. Like, I'm sorry. I know we talking about DV, but that would be one instance where I wouldn't be mad if the King's children jumped this man. Because the way he has adopted this, like, we actually said this because out of a mockery of you asking that white woman to be your Coretta, okay? Like, let's just please. But also in this same interview, when he's asked about putting his hands on Grace or any other woman, this is what he says.
Were you reckless?
I was reckless with her heart.
Not with her body.
Not with her body.
But never hit a woman.
Never hit a woman. My hands have never struck a woman, ever.
You heard him say this. He has never, ever put his hands on a woman. This is what he's saying in his ABC interview, right? This is also Jonathan Majors admitting to putting his hands on a woman.
He strangled me and pushed me against the car.
All those things are under threats.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's never happened to me. So I
because I said something sarcastically, if in your eyes.
Clearly it's more than that.
Yeah.
Clearly that.
Something inside of you.
Yeah, towards you. I'm ashamed. I never wrestled with a woman before. Again, it's just, I addressed you. Like,
He strangled me and pushed me against the car.
All those things are under threats.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's never happened to me. So
because I said something sarcastically, if in your eyes.
Clearly it's more than that.
Yeah.
Clearly that.
Something inside of you.
Yeah, towards you.
You hear this for yourself. You have him who says, I've never aggressed a woman. She's like, but you strangled me. He's like, yes, well, I aggressed you. Okay? That recording that so many people try to say, oh, it must be AI. He went on the Breakfast Club and he admitted that recording was from 2022. That was yesterday. The court hearing that he had was 2023. The trial that he had, it was 2023. Guys, let's be for real, right? So where is the accountability if you have him lying about it in court, going on ABC, lying about it again, when he knows it is not true, when he knows he has aggressed this woman? And mind you, not only does he lie about this, but he also goes to the Hollywood on Lock Awards, right? And he basically says that he is a victim of the system. Iyanla Van Zant, who, puts his head in between her titties, right? does the mammy cry for him, right? And you have him who goes on stage and he delivers this speech.
I reckon folks want to know about, this last year. As a black man in the criminal justice system, I felt anger. I felt sadness, hurt, surprise. When they snatched me up out of my apartment in handcuffs, I didn't feel like all that. I didn't feel like Jonathan Majors, Mr. Creed, Mr. Kane. No, I felt like can y'all hear me okay? Let me speak up.
So he goes to the Hollywood Unlocked Awards, right? And he does the I'm a young black man doing all I can. God protect me. I don't want to leave song, right? And he basically uses the racism angle that I'm a black man in this justice system. He never takes accountability. He went on ABC, he lied, okay? He is here now using the race angle. And all the while, you have Grace, who is the victim, who is the actual victim. Do you know what this does to her? She's not on socials, right? She can't be, right? Can you imagine what happens when black people see her in public, or people in general who love him see her in public? Can you imagine the harassment that she gets? So because of his lie, she sues him. And guess what he does instead of fighting her lawsuit? He settles it. He settles it. Why would he settle it? I'll let you take a wild guess. Maybe that audio has something to do with it, right? There was so much proof between the text messages, between the pictures of her injuries, and there's no telling how much other audio this woman has. He had to settle it. And not only did he settle it, according to her lawyers, Jonathan Majors' ex-girlfriend has dropped her assault and defamation lawsuit against the once rising Hollywood star after reaching a settlement. Lawyers for Majors and Grace Jabari agreed to dismiss the case, and her lawyers stated, and I quote, Jabari's lawyers said Friday that the suit was favorably settled, but declined to elaborate. Why not fight it? Why not fight it? You said you never hit her. Why not fight it? You got the coin. You got the coin. Why not fight it? He knew he couldn't fight it. And he knew again, he was going to lie again. And it was just going to put more evidence out there for all of us to see. And so again, I think it's very, very weird, right? To think you're going to have a sit down with Jonathan Majors and it be centered around accountability, when this man has done nothing but lie about his victim, lie to his victim, lie in court, lie to us. What made Keke Palmer think that he was gonna do anything different? I'll tell you right now, she knows it wasn't gonna be anything different. She was gonna give this man, well, she did, because we didn't see the interview. She gave this man the mammy treatment, right? She also gave this man the same treatment that she got. Let's just be honest. These are her words. She also is an aggressor in her relationships. These are her words. Accountability where? Accountability where? I'm sorry, but it's just insane to me as a DV victim to have an abuser on your platform. It is very, very weird to think that you can go around and build a DV victim platform and then turn around and interview an abuser. It's just, it doesn't add up. The only thing that makes it add up for me is the commonality. And this is according to her words. This is not me putting words in her mouth. This is something that Keke Palmer shares in her own book. I could do what other people have done, which is, I can post the videos of Keke Palmer on R. Kelly's lap. And I can post the videos of Keke Palmer at the Breakfast Club, rooting for R. Kelly in the same interview where she is calling Trey Songz out for sexual harassment. Keke Palmer also went on the Wendy Williams show. And she ate Wendy up.
Let's talk about you and Trey Songz. You know, all right. So
Ooh, the audience. I will say, Wendy, I would have loved to turn on your show and saw you be a little bit more compassionate and less accusatory and ridiculous.
I couldn't.
Why, girl?
Well,
because the gag is you wasn't there.
Well,
but then when I look back at these words, I'm looking at, this can't be the same Keke Palmer who's now trying to platform Jonathan Majors.
The thing is we're then telling girls that it's okay for them to be in weird and awkward and, you know, potentially sexually harassing environments.
Right.
And they should endure it and not say nothing about it. That's why I said something about it, because it's like, look, it happens to me too.
Okay, so
it happens to all of us. Just because I'm in Hollywood doesn't mean we all as women endure that.
This can't be the same Keke Palmer who thought a Jonathan Majors interview is a good idea. Keke Palmer has been very vocal about Trey Songz, and I think literally she is kind of the one that's credited for the avalanche of accusations that have come out following what she said about Trey Songz. She even went on the Larry King show and talked about Trey Songz.
What did you mean by sexual intimidation?
I mean, just that, sexual intimidation. You know, I mean, like, I feel as a female, often I'm put in situations where sometimes males will use their masculinity, their sexuality to taunt you. You know, I hate to have to bring and say that and make it known. But I mean, look, I ain't the first person that's gone through. People have gone through this all the time in college, in high school, but these aren't the things that I've experienced. So this was like kind of one of my first major experiences. You know, it would be like you going to a party where the biggest jock is there. And the whole time he's like, you know, you can get screwed. You can get this, you can get that.
Hearing her words on the Larry King show, right? And her talking about how men can use their masculinity, their dominance over you, to dominate over you. Wouldn't you make that connection when it comes to Jonathan Majors? And therefore, as a victim of that, reach out to the victim herself and say, you know what? Everybody else has been talking to him, but I know what it's like to be on your end. I know what it's like for male privilege to wear its ugly head, especially as a Black woman in our communities. You know, I'm pretty sure other communities go through this too, but I'm a Black woman, so I'm going to talk about within the Black community how Black male masculinity is used all the time to silence women all the time, whether it be in sexual situations, whether it be in physical situations. Wouldn't you think, let me platform the victim so she can share her side? Because I relate to that. Unless you find more commonality between you and Jonathan Majors. Maybe one can say, you know what? Keke Palmer, because of her name and her fame, maybe you were able to use your dominance when it comes to Darius. And I'm not saying this because I give a fuck about Darius. I don't give a fuck about Darius. I don't care about that man, right? But when I think about your mother on screen, spitting at the screen, talking about how this man abused you, talking about Sharonis and how he's an abuser too.
I've never done anything like this. I've been in this business for 22 years. I've seen a lot of stuff, but this is I can't help myself. For Sharonis Jackson to post on his Twitter the ridiculous stuff that he's posted when he knew his brother was abusive. I went to Sharonis over a year ago and told him that his brother was abusive to my daughter. And he said, well, I used to be like that too. What? So now he's posting on Twitter like he's this special guy when we know he's the biggest fuckboy in Hollywood. He's disrespectful to women, just like his little brother. He taught his brother how to be abusive. So he don't get to act like he's this special guy. No, you're a fuckboy and you're a part of the problem.
I cannot watch that video, right, and see how desperate Keke Palmer's mother was for her daughter, and then be able to understand why Keke Palmer would then go interview Jonathan Majors. unless there's a commonality there, unless she sees herself in Jonathan Majors. Now, this is not a video meant to beat her down. It is a video to beat down the fact that accountability is just not in the same room as Jonathan Majors. It's just not. It's not. It's also, the purpose of this video also is to talk about the fact that, you know what? As you all can clearly see, there are people in this industry who know that folks are abusers and they do not care. They will still platform them. They will still work with them. I mean, we've seen the PR. We saw the PR behind Jonathan Majors recently. You know, we see how Megan has sacrificed herself for, you know, I don't know, $2 in a fix. I don't really see what she's gaining from this. I was made privy to something the other day that there was an event that she was invited to. It's a pretty big event. And when she was invited to it, on her way there, she asked if Jonathan could come with her. And the event organizer said, absolutely not. We don't want to trigger anybody. You know, we don't want anyone to feel pressure to have their pictures taken and he's in the background. Like, we don't want that. We don't stand for what he's done. But you are more than welcome to come. And she decided not to go. Megan is literally going around forcing people to accept Jonathan into their events. And I just really don't get it, because had it not been for this DV situation, you and Jonathan Majors would not be together. That man has a child with a white woman. He's been with white women. White women are his preference. You are just the loser who chose to fall on the sword for him. Nothing more, nothing less. I wish them the best. But after this incident with Keke Palmer, which I'm very happy she decided to scrap this interview. So Keke Palmer decided to release this interview with Cash Doll today instead of the Jonathan Majors Luther King Jr. III interview. And baby, this is evidence that bullying works. Her team definitely saw the online Discord and they made the correct decision to scrap that interview, it looks like. So most likely we'll never see it. And good. Thank God. Thank God. We don't want to see that shit. Period. We do not want to see you platforming abusers. Thank you. No, thank you. But I want the message to be loud and clear. Stop trying to force an abuser on us. There is a long line of very talented Black actors and actresses who don't put their hands on people, who don't go around abusing people. Give them the same energy. Praise them. Put them on these PR press tours. Do you know what it takes to get the PR press tour that we've seen Jonathan Majors get? Folks who have been doing this for way longer can't even get this. Can't even get this. Can't even get on the Keke Palmer show, probably. But an abuser gets to do it. That's another point that I want to drive home. Oh, let's give him grace. Y'all gave Diddy grace for 30 years. Have y'all not learned anything? Harvey Weinstein for what, 40 years? Have y'all not learned anything? You know who deserved grace? Nate Parker. Nate Parker deserved grace and didn't get it. Nate Parker back in college was accused of, I believe it was SA. He was cleared of it all legally, right? Years later, the woman at the center of the case offed herself, right? And during his promotion for Birth of a Nation, he goes to ABC, and this is what happens.
When you were watching the piece and the things that have been resurfaced, and I guess we are going to talk about the film, and of course we're going to talk about the film, but this is a very difficult but necessary conversation for a lot of people. Your reaction to those allegations of years ago, that they just don't feel the empathy, that they don't feel that you have any remorse.
Who are we talking about?
What we're talking about is what happened in 1999 with the woman who is now deceased, who took her own life. And her family and others feel that in seeing your remarks since it's resurfaced, that do you have any remorse? Apologize at all for what happened.
Look, we I was on 60 Minutes last night. We talked about it, 3 days out. I think the important thing is that, this isn't about me. The story of Nat Turner as American people, to know the story about a man who was erased from history, at some point, I think that's where our focus should be, especially now. I mean, so many things are happening in America, especially the last 72 hours. So the hope is that, if people care about, America, the story of America, the real story of America that's been so shifted and pushed aside with, revisionist history, then I think that, this is a film that they should see. I really do.
Well, and there are a lot of people who want to hear from you to be able to say, okay, are they going to see it or not? It can't really be, I'm sorry, it can't just be dismissed what happened. You have to be addressed and then to be able
of course, absolutely.
You have a daughter in college. This is a conversation that's going on.
It's a conversation.
What do you tell her?
Anything I say to my daughter, in love, it's in private. She knows how I feel about her. And I've addressed it so many times. I addressed it a lot. Did you see the 60 Minutes last night?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, and I addressed it with Anderson, and we really, and that was the focus of that segment. But 3 days out, at some point, I've talked about it, and I keep talking about it. I keep talking about it.
But you apologize. I guess maybe do you apologize?
I talked about that last night. You know what I mean? It's a
not everybody saw last night.
Well, I'm not gonna go right back.
Okay.
I'm not gonna go through. I'm not gonna, and I've said it, and I said it last night. I was falsely accused. I was proven innocent, and I'm not gonna apologize. For that. I feel terribly about that situation, but at some point, we gotta ask ourselves, like, why are we, is this a film that is important to us, and is it important to, especially people like you and I, being the fact that, to face injustice every day, in this country, and to be inundated with it, on the news, with injustice and justice. The question is, how do we handle it?
I just want to drive home the point that when it comes to Nate Parker, again, he was cleared of everything. There was no receipts. There was nothing to prove that he had done what he was accused of doing, right? And he got this treatment, which was insane. But when it comes to Jonathan Majors, there's so much evidence. There was so much evidence from the beginning that he did what he was accused of doing. Yet he has gotten the red carpet rolled out for him afterwards. And it truly makes no sense to me, especially when I look back at cases like Nate Parker's. Nate Parker did not deserve this at all. But yet, I'm probably sure he's looking at Jonathan Majors like, how the hell is he getting this type of treatment with all the receipts that he has on him? Maybe Nate Parker should have called on Megan Coretta Scott King Jr. III for his PR redemption. Maybe then Hollywood would have opened its doors and its hands back open for his ass. This man was promoting Birth of a Nation, an amazing film. And he was derailed by Robin Roberts over a case that was not only he was cleared of, he was proven innocent of. He had already made his remarks about it. It happened almost 20 years prior, right? And his entire career was abruptly ended because of this. And I often wonder, are people giving Jonathan Majors this treatment because they regret what happened with Nate Parker? Is it that? Because what happened with Nate Parker is disgusting. And when we talk about the next Denzel, Nate Parker was that. Denzel Washington himself dubbed Nate the next Denzel. That's how serious his acting was, right? But then I'm like, is that it? And I don't think it's it. I just think that we just don't care. We don't care about women being abused. And when I say we, I don't mean me. I say y'all. Y'all don't care about women being abused. Y'all don't care about children being abused. I mean, there was even an article where various people came to Jonathan Majors' defense. And one of my faves, Whoopi Goldberg, came forward and said, you know what? He doesn't need to apologize. People don't apologize these days. And that's just to sum it up. Y'all don't know what the fuck accountability is. Y'all can't even spell accountability. You wouldn't know what accountability looked like if it was staring you in the face and punched you in your mouth. You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know. A lot of you don't know how to take accountability. And because you don't know how to take accountability, you don't know what accountability looks like. And so when I see people say accountability and Jonathan Majors in the same sentence, it's just weird to me. This man is not accountable. He hasn't been accountable for anything. And I hope that this is a lesson not only to Keke Palmer, but to other people who plan on not only platforming Jonathan Majors, but other abusers. We don't want to see it. We don't want to see it. We do not want to see it. Thank you. Drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves and each other.
Woo, child.